Hello, creators, and welcome to Rediscovering Be Something Wonderful, where we revisit timeless classics from deep within our video archives. What you're about to hear challenges one of the deepest assumptions humanity has ever accepted, that death is final and irreversible. This video explores a remarkable story from a subscriber who decided to test the powerful idea that nothing is impossible, not even revising and reversing death. But more importantly, it reveals why manifestation is never about changing other people, fixing conditions, or manipulating the world around you. It is always about who you are conscious of being. You'll discover why the same person who effortlessly demonstrated what most would call a miracle still struggled with money, and why this paradox contains one of the greatest lessons in conscious creation. This message shows why reality is always reflecting your assumptions, why conditions are never the authority, and why the identity you occupy right now determines the world you experience. Now, let's open the vault once again and rediscover why nothing is impossible when you remember who and what you truly are. Welcome back to Be Something Wonderful.
Today on Be Something Wonderful, can you really manifest anything like coming back from physical death? I am your host, Tom Kearin, and these are the studios of Be Something Wonderful, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, good morning and welcome back to the studios of Be Something Wonderful. The question came up, as it does from time to time, Tom, what about physical death? Can I manifest someone coming back from their death experience or the death transition? Now, we've talked about this idea, right? All the spiritual greats talk about the idea of physical death as a change in form, a change in frequency, a change in vibration of the consciousness and the awareness that you are. But we do have a real experience, a real physical experience of that death transition. So the question is, Tom, can I change that? This is one of you asked. Can I bring someone back? Can I bring a pet back or a loved one? Well, we're going to talk about this idea about what's possible today and more. Remember, the ancients were very clear and answered the question on what's possible. They said, all things are possible. Right here, all things are possible. No conditions, no limitations whatsoever. But what was it they said before they said all things are possible? They said with God. With God. With you as the creator. With all that is. With existence. With that I am awareness. With you as one with the Father. With you as consciousness. With you as awareness. With you as that all power, all knowing, all presence. All things are possible. So it is with you. Right? The ancients say, but with man, this is impossible. They're referring to that physically focused you, that limits yourself, that comes from lack and limitation and separation. But when it comes from the knowing that you are the creator, all things are possible. There are no conditions or limitations whatsoever. The ancients told us all things with God, with you as the one and only creator, the one and only center and personalized, individualized, focused viewpoint, vantage point, and perspective of all that is, all that you are, all things are possible. The limitless potential of that one divine mind, you are the center of that, of all that is. Remember, all that God is, God is all that you are, and you are all that God is. There is absolutely no separation. There are absolutely no limitations or conditions whatsoever. So what's going on? Well, all things are possible, but for you and your perspective and your viewpoint, your vantage point as an individualized center of all that is, What's probable with your definitions, your beliefs, and your assumptions of who you are in your relationship to the world that you're creating? That's all, right? So what's probable is based on you, your mix of your definitions and assumptions about who you are. But when you go to the absolute assumption that I am the one and only creator of my reality, of my life experience, now all things are possible. Now you're lined up and aligned with that idea that I am God and there is no other. Yes, the Father is greater than I. The idea of that existence is greater than any viewpoint or vantage point or perspective that I can have at any one moment. But I am one with that existence. I am one with that God. I am all that is. That's where your power is. It's in that paradox, that paradoxical experience as all that is, as well as a physically focused viewpoint, vantage point, and perspective of all that is. That's powerful. So, but what about physical death or the death transition or the change in form? Well, remember, it's not about them who you are perceiving or seeing as having made a transition. It's about you. It's about your reality, your world, your version of the people, events, and things. Remember, it's all consciousness. It's all I am awareness. It's all that is. It's all that you are experiencing yourself through and as infinite viewpoints, vantage points, and perspective. It's all you, hear this, experiencing yourself through and as infinite viewpoints, vantage points, and perspectives as all that is. So it's not about you, it's not about them, it's about you. It is about you. It's not about them, it's about you, your perspective, your viewpoint, your vantage point as all that is. You create your version of others, events, and things in your world. So what versions are you creating of the people, events, and circumstances in your world? There's one consciousness, one awareness, one reality, experiencing itself through and as you, through you and as you. You as all that is. And so I want to share this because I pointed to this in earlier videos about a subscriber who wrote me and said they're a silent subscriber. In other words, they don't comment on the channel, all right, or until now, right? They don't send emails or comment, but they wanted to write me, Be Something Wonderful, and we got their email. And it's beautiful. This subscriber talks about bringing two people back. Now, remember, creating the experience of bringing two people back from death. Because remember, you're only ever manifesting your version of reality, your experience. So you're not ever really curing anyone, manifesting anything. You're not manifesting anything for yourself or others. You're determining who you are. And then that experience forms around that identity. Right? So you're not bringing anyone back. You're deciding who you are, the reality that you're going to occupy. And then that version of reality and others and things forms around that awareness. That's what's going on. I want to show this. We've talked about that idea that you don't really manifest or create anything. It's all created. You are all things already. It's about you becoming aware of that all that isness from a different perspective or viewpoint or vantage point. That's what we call manifesting. And in terms of others, you never cure others or manifest for others. Remember, you don't create other people's realities. You create your reality. You're all that is. And then you create a version of the people, events, and circumstances in your world. Everything is consciousness. So all of them are viewpoints of consciousness, but in your reality, you're creating the version of that consciousness that aligns with your perspective, your beliefs, your definitions of who you are in your reality. So this person said, I've had some huge success with speaking things into existence. Yes, We've talked about this in many ways, right? Just say the word, I am. That's how you speak things into existence. You speak them into existence by declaring, by assuming, by imagining who you are. And then reality forms around that. Then the version of that consciousness in the form of people, places, and events and things form around that idea of who you are. The word is the one and only source. I am is the word. Some people ask, what's the word? It's I am. I am is a word. It's two words, right? I am is the word. The word is the one and only source, the one and only substance, the one and only supply, the creator of all that is. In other words, your experience, you and your experience of reality is all that is. Wow. It's not about others. In John 1:1, they said, in the beginning was the Word. In the beginning was what? It was existence itself. What we call God, all that is, the Father, right? The isness of reality, the absolute creator, right? In the beginning was the creative power, I am, the great I am, as all that is. All power in the beginning, the great I am, that I am that I am. That's what the ancients were talking about. So when they said with God, when they said in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, means all in the beginning was existence and all of the creative power there is, all the power and knowing. And that was with God and that was God. And in other words, it's all God. It's all you. It's all that is. That's what they were getting at. I am, the great I am. There's only one I am. Very powerful. In the beginning was the Word I am, was the creative power I am. And that creative power and that word was with God, I am. And that creative power I am was God. There's no separation. So this particular creator said, but I'd like to share my biggest one for you to unpack for your channel. So huge success, right? Silent subscriber, creating the life of her dreams, manifesting and creating her own experience of reality, and now wants to share what she considers her biggest manifestations. Referring to the biggest miracle of your I am awareness, she was referring to this, Jesus bringing back Lazarus from the dead, because I've talked about it on the channel many times. And she goes, I know you talk about that idea of bringing someone back from physical death. Remember, there's a metaphysical message of that story of Lazarus, which I've covered many times in earlier videos. So she goes through the events that she is now. Remember, there's no past, there's no future, there's only now. So when she tells this story, hear this, she's telling it from who she is right now, her definitions of who and what she is and her life experience. So she's creating that reality in the now moment. We're going to tie that idea back in a few minutes. But remember, you're not talking about some reality that existed in the past. She's creating this right now as she tells the story. There's no past. You don't go back. There's no past where this happens. So she's creating this idea that she cured somebody from an incurable disease and brought them back from the dead in the now moment. In other words, she's shifting to a reality, a perspective where they were cured, where they never died. But she's doing that now. That didn't happen in the past. I want you to stay with me here. She says, in 2020, my aunt passed away from an incurable disease. She was in her 40s. She called it devastating. Remember, that's the assumption. Incurable. Passed away. If it's incurable, if your assumption's incurable, then it's incurable. You create your own reality. If you call a disease incurable, it's incurable. That's the definition of reality. Then she says in 2022, she discovered Neville Goddard's teachings, right? She casually said, this is what she said casually. In other words, she just said the word. That's what she's trying to say when she says, I casually said. In other words, I just said the word. And this is what she said. If Neville said nothing was impossible, then my aunt is back alive and healthy. Back alive and healthy. She just said the word. told the story of how she would like to see it from her perspective. And this is what she says about how she said it. Remember, she's recreating this past right now. There's nothing, she's not remembering it, she's creating it. What is memory or remembering? It's a mental image. She's imagining this now. It's not something that happened in the past. So she's describing it and said, I said it with full conviction, 100% belief, which I don't know where it came from. Because I am is absolute belief. It's absolute conviction. That's where it comes from. When you just say the word, you don't have to believe it. Believing it is an idea, but you know it because I am is absolute knowing. Belief just introduces doubt. But it's interesting here. She goes, I said it with full conviction. But she doesn't really know that because that didn't happen in the past. She doesn't know what that version of her was feeling. She only knows what she's feeling now as she tells the story. So she's just seeing herself that she was in conviction then, but it's her conviction now. Do you get it? There's no separation, right? I am awareness is absolute belief and conviction. It's beyond belief. It's the conviction and knowing. That's what the faith of a mustard seed means. It doesn't mean a little bit of faith. It means absolute knowing. A mustard seed knows it's a mustard seed and will grow into a mustard tree. I've covered that in earlier videos, right? So your puny 3D physical mind, its belief is not required because it doesn't create anything. It just perceives reality. It doesn't create. Do you see it? Now, remember, you are the perceiving, you are the perceiver, and you are the perception. That's what I'm talking about. You're all of it. But when you create the idea that there's something out there that I'm perceiving and creating, then you have to believe it. But there's nothing outside of you. Do you see what we're getting at? Huge paradox today. So it's beyond belief. So let's continue with this. I want to show it to you here, like I always try to do. She says here, 5 days later, after casually saying, if Neville says it's possible, then it's possible. Then my aunt is alive. Is alive and well. 5 days later, she says, I get a call that my aunt was back and alive, and everyone was confused. Of course. But remember, there's no past where everyone was confused. She's creating that idea that, of course, everyone would be confused. She creates her version of the people, events, and circumstances, right? And she came back healthy and now living the life she couldn't before. But remember, all lives are going on right now. So she didn't come back to that life where she was living that she could never live before. She was living it. You just didn't see it from your perspective or viewpoint. Now you are. But you create it. It's from your version of who you are. There are infinite versions of you and realities. You create infinite versions and perspectives of others and events and situations. So she didn't come back from the dead. She never left. She never went anywhere. That's what Scripture means when Moses answered, "Here I am." You don't go anywhere. She's always been living all of her lives, all possibilities, physical and non-physical, here and now. Right? But remember, she's an individualized point of consciousness, but it's all consciousness. There's no separation. So from your perspective, you create your version of her. This is big today, right? Here you are, all that is. You, in the now moment, as your real self. I am awareness. Here you are again, you, now. The multidimensional, infinite personalities, infinite you. Living all your lives. The lives where your aunt passed away and never lived the life she wanted to live. The life where she is thriving and living the life she always wanted to live. All lives. There's no past lives. There's no future lives. All your lives are going on right now. It's that I am identity. Superimposed version of you. All versions superimposed one over another. And you as that larger identity. You as all that is in expression. As that larger identity. And then there's you, that identity, you now, coming from a unique perspective, a unique viewpoint, a unique vantage point of all that you are. framing reality around a certain viewpoint or vantage point, framing your experience of all that you are around a certain viewpoint or vantage point or perspective, all happening now. Then you create an experience, and a horizontal linear experience to make sense of your experience as all that is. So you create a horizontal linear experience where she was dead. She died from an incurable disease. This is the past right here, right? The idea of a past, linear past. And then a linear past where she came alive, where you manifested, resurrected her out of what you said. You create that idea. And then although from this present vertical. And you create this idea that I'm in a manifested physical experience telling that story of the past. And then you'll have a future based on that. But look at this. It's all happening now. So you're just telling the story from this vertical. All lives are going on right now. You're creating the idea that she was dead and then alive. But she never went anywhere. She's living all of those lives. Yes, all of those possibilities exist. All of those infinite manifested experiences exist. But you're telling that from who you are now, from this larger awareness of who you are. You can now create a story that makes time-space sense, space-time sense, linear sense to that 3D physically focused you. And that's how you're making sense of it. The way you're making sense of it is saying it was a miracle. In the physical linear experience, it was a miracle. So you tell the story of a miracle to make sense of you being all realities, all versions of reality right now, as well as your aunt, as a perspective or a viewpoint of you being in all realities. And so that nothing happened in the past. You see this. We're going to get back to this. This is big today. Take a snapshot of this, okay? So here it is. Here's what I want to lay on you. Remember, in 2020, no. Right now. She says in 2020, my aunt passed away. No, right now. Your aunt passed away. You're telling the story right now. In 2022, I affirmed and assumed she's alive and wealthy. Healthy. Wealthy too. Why not? Wealth, health, it's all the same. No, not in 2022. Right now. From the vertical. Then you're saying 5 days later, she's back and resurrected. No, right now. There's not any of that. That's just a story. So you can make space-time sense or linear sense, horizontal sense of this miracle. But even then, it's a miracle, right? But it's the miracle of awareness. It's the miracle of you. This is powerful today. So from the infinite identities or perspectives or vantage points of view of all that you are, it's all created or manifested from who and what you're conscious of being here and now. Do you see? All of it's created here and now, from those infinite perspectives, from that identity of who you are. And the infinite versions of people, your aunt, events, and things form around this identity. You have a greater awareness of who you are, so you can tell a story about that. Do you see this? You create a story and experience in linear time and space that appears like a miracle to make sense of your simultaneity. That you're all realities, that you're all versions of yourself, and you're seeing this version of events. The physically focused personality of you becoming more aware of who and what you are. The miracle of you. The miracle of you, the miracle of your awareness, that's the basis of all manifesting. Of every manifested experience, that's the basis of it. You shifting perspectives or realities or vantage points or viewpoints of all that is and all that you are. That's what manifesting is. That's why every teacher talks about the idea of self-concept, right? Or self-image. One of you even wrote, my self-image or my self-concept's in the toilet. Will that affect me? Well, remember, you're telling the story of that. Your self-image is perfect. You're perfect. Nothing's in the toilet. You're telling a story about that and creating an experience of it being in the toilet and an experience of it not manifesting anything because of that. But you are manifesting in every moment. You're just creating an experience where things are in the toilet. So get out of the toilet. So I just want you to know that you're perfect. That's what I wanted to say to you with that comment. I even responded to that. There's no truth to that, my self-concepts in the toilet. Don't allow anyone to ever tell you that you better fix your self-concept. You couldn't have a more beautiful divine self-concept than who you are right now. Know that, right? So remember, it's all you. That's the miracle, right? This is powerful today. And then she continues to tell the story. I love this email. It's a beautiful story. 1 year later, she says, I tried it again, and lo and behold, they returned 3 days later. Resurrected 3 days later. The idea of the number 3, right? That biblical number. Remember, it's not, in the Bible, it doesn't mean 3 days. It means wholeness. It means completeness. It means you're already there. It means you are fulfilled. You know yourself, right? But look at this. It's not 1 year later. It's now. It's you creating that experience now. There is no time. And she goes on to say, I've manifested curing people from terminal cancers, out of comas, getting jobs. But remember, you don't cure others. You don't manifest for others. You don't create for others. It's all you, right? You don't bring anyone else out of a coma. You don't resurrect others. It's you determining who you are, moving within you to a certain perspective or viewpoint that creates all of those experiences. There's only you in your reality, in your viewpoint, in your versions of people, events, and things. It's all consciousness. And they're all individualized points of consciousness, but in your world, in your perspective, it only matters on your viewpoint is all that matters. Your individualized perspective is all that exists. And that's everything, because existence is one. Existence is all that is. So you are all of it. You create and manifest an experience of your reality where the new version of you, hear this, experiences a version of them cured or awake or with the job and alive. That's the experience of manifesting. Do you see this? I want to really show you this. You talk about curing them from cancers or getting them out of comas or getting them jobs or resurrecting them. But you create, manifest an experience of your reality, of you, where the new version of you, who you define yourself to be, this new awareness of who you are, you experience a version of them cured, a version of them awake from a coma, a version of them with their dream job, a version of them alive and resurrected. All of those exist within you as you here and now. Wow. It's all about you, not others. Here I am. Here I am is repeated 6 times in the Bible like that, at least 6 times. Here I am, here I am, here I am. I'm it. Even with, and then she goes on to say, even with all this knowledge on the law or about the law, success stories, trying every technique, spending months, she says, reprogramming my negative beliefs, knowing that, she goes, and I didn't have those beliefs anymore, but still about money, I still struggle with money in abundance. Right, why? Because it means nothing, it does nothing. Those stories, the study of the law, trying every technique means nothing. What means something is you here and now, what you're saying, what you're declaring. There's no past where you tried, where you efforted and you failed. You create that idea right now. Just declare, I'm it. I'm free and I'm abundant and I'm wealthy, and then it must be, right? Just like you had those other experiences. It's the same idea. How can I apply the same results for other things, the results that she believes she got for other things with money? Well, remember, that's where you're getting hung up. You don't apply anything. You're it. It was you just seeing a different version of all that you are, creating different infinite versions of all that they are, and all the things and the events and things in your life. But you are it. Remember, you say, how can I apply the same results with money? Well, actually, you are applying it in a way, right? You are creating it. What are you creating? What are you manifesting? What are you resurrecting in your life? You're declaring that I'm broke, that I have no money, that I've tried everything, that I'm not a millionaire, but I want to manifest it. I want to be a millionaire, but I'm not a millionaire. I want to have financial freedom, but I'm not financially free. That's what you're manifesting. It's perfect. It's the perfect creation how you resurrected people and got people out of comas and got them jobs. It's the same idea. It's you. Be it. There's no proof or evidence out there of your financial independence. I don't care what the circumstances look like. They're not proof. You are. I manifested it by declaring it once. This is what she said about those other things. Yes, and that's exactly what you're doing right now with money in every moment. But you're declaring that you don't have it. You're declaring that remember what Jesus said in the Gospel of Thomas. Unless you know yourselves, unless you know yourselves as the Son of the living God, you will live in poverty. And you will be that poverty. Right? So you're doing it in every moment, but you keep declaring that you're not it. That's all that is. You can resurrect as much wealth and abundance and love and things in your life that you could ever imagine. Be it. Be the identity no matter what. Be that financial freedom no matter what. There's no proof or evidence out there. So you are it. Be it. Stop looking out there for the proof or evidence of who you are and what's possible. With God, the ancients were clear, with you as the creator, as one with the creator, right? I am God and there is no other. There's no other I am. There's only one. That's the paradox. All things are possible. Wow. So yeah, can you really manifest that experience? Yes. And you're doing it all the time. I am your host, Tom Kearin. And this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creatives, thank you for being with me. Thank you for liking and sharing and commenting on our videos. Thank you for being part of our Facebook group, The Ambassadors, at facebook.com/groups/Be Something Wonderful, for joining us on Instagram and Twitter at Tom Kearin, Facebook at facebook.com/group/Be Something Wonderful. I think I just said that. But just to reinforce it, join that group. And also we have a big video on our membership channel, the Be Something Wonderful membership channel, that we just released on Everyone Is You Pushed Out. We debunk the myths and misunderstandings, and we show how that is a powerful idea for you to manifest anything. And we have a live stream coming up, a lot going on the Be Something Wonderful membership channel on January 26, 2025 at 12 noon time. I'm going to answer your questions live. You're going to be live with me, where I answer your questions live on the chat and the questions you've been sending to us at info@besomethingwonderful.com. Also today, another big video on the Tom Kearin channel. So be sure to stay tuned for that. In fact, we're going to talk about manifesting. We're going to talk about 3 steps that will make you a master. Until next time, with great love, with great light and infinite gratitude, this is me, Tom Kearin. I am that I am. Until next time, see you soon.